welcome back. Ep.6 about Crazy About the SWA podcast. I am your host, Crazy Ralph, and tonight we got a little bit of a shorter show. No guest, unfortunately, but I do have some pretty exciting guests lined up for the future, so stay tuned for future episodes if you want to talk or listen to some of the talents of the SWA. But tonight, a little bit of a quick show. We're going to sneak in here right before Countdown. I think we're going to go up sometime on Wednesday. But I'm going to do a quick little breakdown of episode 38. Going to talk and look forward to Countdown, what we can expect. Maybe some of the storylines that are generated from episode 38, looking into Countdown. But let's start with the episode 38 breakdown. We had quite a few matches. We had 7 matches and one kind of late addition match. And then one was also unsanctioned. We'll get to that a little bit later. But the first match we had of the night was AZ Alpha Omega, a new rookie debuting wrestler, versus the Dragon Prince. Both wrestlers are rookies to the SWA. They didn't make it into any of the rookie showcase matches in episodes 35, 36, and 37. But they make their debut here against each other, and this was a fun match. The Dragon Prince, known for his dragon-type moves, like a dragon sleeper hole and a few of the other dragon-based moves, took on AZ, who kind of had a running offense, kind of had an interesting kind of game plan. Both of these wrestlers really showed out, and they're both there in their rookie matches. But AZ took the match with a fireman's carry gut check, which looked particularly brutal. So we'll be seeing how the rest of the SWA cast fares against that move. And we didn't see too much from the Dragon Prince in ways of finishers. So hopefully we get to see a little bit more of his arsenal in his next match. But we're looking forward to more from these two coming up in season 3. Moving on to match number 2. Dom Juan versus Aimo Talipaju. This was a good match. Definitely some up-and-coming wrestlers. We've seen a little bit more of Dom Juan than we've seen of Aimo, but both have had their ups and downs. I think Dom was 2-2 coming into this match, and I think Aimo had won both of his contests, but they were close. It wasn't like he ran away with them. Aimo, the former powerlifter, really kind of showcased his lifting ability during the match, taking Dom Juan, the bigger and more kind of brawny wrestler, up above his head several times. But it was Dom Juan who kind of stole the show and stole Aimo's first kiss. Went in for the little peck on the cheek, I think, there during the match. And ever since that point, I think that kind of threw off Aimo. He wasn't quite expecting that to happen to him, and Dom Juan kind of went on to win in emphatic fashion. We'll look to see these two again in the near future in the SWA. But if I'm honest, and a little bit of speculation here on my part, I think it would be fun to see a tag team between Aimo and Raccoon, both of the kind of former powerlifter, bodybuilder wrestlers in the SWA. So I think that could be a fun tag pairing. But this was a fun match, and we're looking forward to more from these two wrestlers in the near future. Match number 3, Black Star versus Mason Jones and Deuce Bennett. And this one was kind of a surprise, I think, for most people, especially according to the match report. The match predictions reports and the bookies out in Las Vegas really had Black Star walking all over Mason Jones and Deuce Bennett, but it turned out to be the other way around, which should have been a pretty open and shut case for Black Star. New wrestler to the SWA, Bastion Black, and Casey Starr were looking to cruise to an easy win over arguably like the gatekeepers of the SWA tag division. Casey Starr, or Mason Jones, and Deuce Bennett kind of serve as that threshold between some of the tag pairings that haven't quite had as much success and some of the top competition in the SWA. And they serve their role well because they bounce out teams who don't belong, and the teams that prove their mettle can very easily beat Mason Jones and Deuce Bennett. But it was not so for Black Star. Um, in the beginning of the match, Bastion Black was dominating. He single-handedly was winning that match for Black Star, but once Casey Starr got on the ring, things took a turn. Deuce Bennett and Mason Jones really worked Casey over and kept him from getting the tag back for Bastion Black to get back in the ring. And honestly, it was a pretty abysmal performance from Casey, and they dropped the match. They do not beat Mason Jones and Deuce Bennett, and the story writers in the SWA headquarters are probably upset with the turn of events because it was a televised match. That's what they have to roll with now. So the broken kayfabe's probably a little unfortunate for the SWA, but it'll be interesting to see what Black Star can put together as a kind of comeback vibe, because they very easily dropped a winnable match that they should not have lost. But props to Mason Jones and Deuce Bennett once again, some of the more talented tag wrestlers in the division, and we'll see what more we get from them in the tag division. But it'll be interesting to see if a run back occurs where we have this match again at a later date. But who's to say? Our fourth match of the night was the Rookie Tag Showdown. This was the biggest match of the night. One of my favorite matches as well. The Rookie Tag kind of really delivered from an action standpoint. We had 8 of the rookie wrestlers that didn't win in their rookie showcases. We had Tim Bob, we had Russell Nash, Anthony Hager, Angel Sabin, the Void was in there, Flint Buckshot. A lot of really, really interesting and new rookie wrestlers, excuse me. And all 8 rookies were working with a partner that they hadn't been working with before, obviously. And there were some rumors of maybe alliances forming during locker room sessions between some of the wrestlers, predominantly between Rock Flag and Eagle, Russell Nash, Anthony Hagar, and Flint Buckshot. But I don't think any of that saw fruition in the match beyond some excellent teamwork from Anthony Hagar and Flint Buckshot. But during the match, the early story was kind of Tim Bob. Tim Bob took a beating pretty early on, took a lot of damage from Void, took a lot of damage from Hagar, and very quickly was eliminated and left his partner, Rock Flag and Eagle, in a really tough spot, alone in a ring with 7 other hungry competitors. The mid-match was more dominated by the pairing of Hagar and Buckshot, who just absolutely put an offensive clinic on in the middle of the match, having a flurry of eliminations and big offense. But it was ultimately Void and Angel Sabin who outlasted the competition and arguably had their own dominant performance in the match, because not only did both of them make it to the end of the match, but they made it in pretty sound fashion. Void put the beans on the last competitors, and I believe it was Angel Sabin who came in for the pin after Void kind of maybe didn't go for the pin. So it's interesting to see what really worked out there. But they punched their ticket to Countdown, and we'll get to see them in their match, an Elimination Chamber. Excuse me. It's an Iron Man match, I believe, that they're getting themselves into. So we'll get to see them at Countdown, and then we'll see where the rest of the rookies land after this match in the future of Season 3. Next match was Bogart and Rajwana versus McLovin and Chiamaka and Digway. This was the surprise addition to the card. This one was not initially announced on the card, but it was added later for an unknown reason. I'm not sure the reason was particularly stated, but it was added to the card. Bogart and Rajwana took on a pairing of McLovin and Digway in what was a pretty eventful match. Each wrestler had their own storylines coming into the match. Probably the most interesting, though, was the pairing of Rajwana and Bogart, who worked like they had been tag partners for quite some while. They really had a lot of swagger and like good team offense. And Digway and McLovin really didn't have the chemistry that their opponents had. And Bogart and Rajwana do win the match. A little bit of sub action going on, and kind of the storylines on this one where Raj gets a needed win. He was on a little bit of a slide. Even if it was a tag match, even if it could be argued that Bogard did most of the heavy lifting, Raj still got in the match and Raj still got off some nice offense. So a little bit of a boost for his confidence and a slight push for Digway after a couple nice wins. Maybe loses some steam here. So we'll be seeing how the implications from this match kind of stretch on through the SWA in season 3. But all of these future wrestlers have a bright future in the SWA, so we're excited to see that. And next match was probably the most, maybe not the most shocking, but like the most like surprising event occurred where Barefoot Buddies versus Warpath. Painwrecker showed up to the ring alone. His tag partner in Warpath, Warren Wyndham, who he was having or still is having a match with at Countdown, was a no-show. Failed to show up to his own tag match. Warren Wyndham then tweeted out his excuse, which was that of a sore back. But if I'm honest, this feels more like a stab in the back of Painwrecker, who he faces next week at Countdown for the belt. This felt like it might have been a little underhanded. Soften up your competition, who has to wrestle some pretty stiff competition in the Barefoot Buddies, and then have to wrestle you after you got a week off. So we'll see what really kind of evolves from that situation, but in a kind of surprising show of sportsmanship and goodwill towards the current SWA champion, Sangres opted to wrestle solo. Didn't call on his tag partner. He was ringside, but it turned from a tag match between Barefoot Buddies and Warpath to a singles match between Painwrecker and Sangres, and two of the best to do it in the SWA. Really put on a great show. Maybe it wasn't as interesting if like the title was on the line or there wasn't really any strong stakes to this match, but it was definitely an excellent showcase of some of the top level talent in the SWA. And Painwrecker takes the win in this one. Sangres put in a valiant effort, and once again, props to Sangres, fan favorite wrestler in the SWA. Going with the sportsmanship approach, they absolutely could have kept it a tag match, turned it into a handicap match, and beaten Warpath, but the honorable Sangres and the Barefoot Buddies pity's not the right word, but they honor Painwrecker's dignity by keeping it a solo match. So this was kind of a good one all the way around. A nice good story in the SWA. Next match was the Elimination Chamber showcase tag 3-man match thing. The tag teams were Zane Ryder, Machine, and El Puma, taking on Alonzo Howard, A-Train Howard, Paragon, and Bozeman, Yasuke Bozeman, in a showcase of the talent on display at the Path to Glory Elimination Chamber match at Countdown. Unfortunately for Howard, Paragon, and Bozeman, this was a pretty one-sided affair. It did last quite a while, I will say. It was the longest match of the night. But Zane Ryder really put the hurt on. Machine showcased why he was still very near the top 10 of the power rankings. I believe he ranked 11th or 12th going into this match. And then Puma is also a top 15 power ranking wrestler. So some of the newer talent on the opposing team of Howard, Paragon, and Bozeman really couldn't put up much of a fight on this one. Machine got a lot of offense off. Ryder got a lot of offense off. Puma really didn't even get in the match. That's how dominant Ryder and Machine were. And it's interesting to see though, because it wasn't necessarily this is how it's going to go with the Elimination Chamber. Alonzo Howard got some nice offense off. Paragon was looking as big and strong as ever, and Bozeman was looking a little shifty and sneaky. And obviously, Bozeman has the history of being the man to spear at the time current world champion Warren Wyndham through the elimination chambers not once but twice in the first elimination chamber match all the way back in season 1. So he has a little bit of a legacy to uphold here at Countdown, where he's looking to spear some of his opponents through elimination chambers. So let's hope we see something like that from Bozeman, and let's hope we see a great match. I'm interested to see how this match will turn out at Countdown. And then last but not least, you might be saying, but Ralph, we already talked about 7 matches. No, I tell you no. There was a secretive 8th match that happened at the end of the night. DDT had called out Calvin Abueva, part of the Disciples of Grey, out to what Crazy About the SWA has come to understand is his old childhood home in Nixia, Missouri, and the SWA sent a camera crew out there and basically recorded the unsanctioned match at Thomas's childhood home. And what kind of transpired was a little spooky, a little unnerving, just because obviously the atmosphere out there is completely different than when you're in the arena, when you have a ring, when you have the lights. It was a particularly spooky house that they wrestled at. I don't know if anyone currently lives there. Certainly not Daniel Jake Thomas. But, you never know. But what happened was Abueva got some pretty early offense in, was showing that he could keep with DDT, but after kind of a quick flurry of punches and strikes, DDT really went to town. Got a double underhook DDT onto Abueva, and then another quick couple grapples, and that was all Abueva could take. He got knocked out. And after the feed happened, we're not really sure what happened. It has since been reported that the camera crews on site refused to speak of the situation or of what they witnessed upon returning to SWA headquarters. But DDT had released recently a promo calling out the remainder of the Disciples of Grey, and I believe some of the footage from that promo was from the post-match of Abueva and DDT at the Missouri location. So it'll be interesting to see what happens here, because DDT got his wish and is going to be facing the remainder, or I believe mostly the remainder, of the Disciples of Grey at Countdown. It's the first match of the night. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. And that's all she wrote for episode 38. I'm looking forward, I should say, to Nomad highlights, looking at episode 38, because his content on episode 36 and 37 have been fantastic. So shout out Nomad, you're really killing it. And I'm sure everyone else has similar sentiments. But let's look forward to Countdown, because that's right around the corner as I'm recording this. I believe a solid 4 hours away from Countdown. But on the card, we have 7 matches at Countdown. First match, as I alluded to in the breakdown, DDT versus the Disciples of Grey in an Extreme Rules subs-only handicap match. Quite a bit of a mouthful, but DDT looks to take down 3 opponents with submissions. DDT known for being the SWA's submission specialist, submission expert. The only person who has really ever challenged him for that title has been Bogard, but Bogard has fallen to DDT several times after putting on a pretty emphatic performance in one of his debut matches versus DDT in an Iron Man submission match. But unfortunately, he's not bested DDT yet. And for the Disciples of Grey, it's not known who is going to come down ringside. Obviously, the Disciples of Gray stable is fairly sizable. Abueva has not been seen since his match with DDT, so it's unlikely that Abueva shows up, but it could be that we see Sparkles, or it could be that we see Tupuola or some of the other Disciples come down to the ringside with them in tow. Second match of the night, Dom Juan, the Tiger King, Raj Rajwana, Czar, Raccoon, Angel Sabin, and Void in a 6-man Iron Man match. This one's probably my most interesting match. I'll be interesting to see what happens here, because in an Iron Man match, there's a lot of things you got to do to kind of keep with the match's flow, and obviously longevity is a big thing. And if anyone has been a longevity wrestler amongst this group, it's Void. But my kind of sneaky one to keep an eye on pick is probably going to be Raj Rajwana, just because he had a little bit of a cheeky win last episode 38. Maybe a little bit more confidence, a little bit more offense that can come. And the offense that we've seen from him has been pretty good. He just never seems to quite put it together that much, unfortunately. But hopefully he puts one together tonight on Countdown. Czar, obviously the biggest competitor in the SWA, looks to throw his weight around as well. So this will be a really interesting match. Next up, we had Starman versus Digway. This is another match that's going to be probably pretty interesting. Obviously, Starman, known for his high-flying antics, and Digway, who's had a little bit of a push, dropped a tag match, episode 38, but still made the card for Countdown. I don't really know what's going to happen on this one. This one will be a little bit interesting. We've seen some aerial reversals from Digway, so Starman might be in trouble here with obviously his high-flying style. And also Starman's perchance to headbutt his way to the outside of the ring and impale himself that way. So we'll see what happens during this match, but it looks to be another pretty interesting one. And then we kind of get towards the heavier half of the card, the top half, with our first of 2 6-way Elimination Chamber matches. And this one is a tag showdown. This one features the Onyx Stone from the Unhinged, Noah Quinn from the Quinn Brothers, Triple G from the Disciples of Gray, Sungress from Barefoot Buddies, Bogard showcasing his pairing with Raj Rajwana from episode 38. They don't have an official name yet, but I'm going to coin the term the Big Cats. The Big Cats representative is Bogard, and then obviously Dirty Deeds, current champion, tag division champions, Dirty Deeds, has Yamaguchi representing them. And the stipulation is that if Yamaguchi wins the match, the Dirty Deeds gets to pick their defense for the title, where everyone else gets a shot at Dirty Deeds at a future date. So we'll see how this one goes. Obviously, Yamaguchi's no slouch, but there's a lot of heavy offensive talent in this match, so it should be a really, really fun one to watch. And obviously, with the Elimination Chamber setting, that adds an extra level of excitement and intrigue to it. Next match, Deadfire versus Bobby Plasters, the Bobbies, the Plaster Blasters, the Plaster Pair. I think officially it is the Bobbies, but I'm not sold on that name just yet. But Bobby Plaster and Bobby Plaster's stunt double versus Deadfire, and kind of a culmination. We've seen a lot of action between these two camps in the early stages of season 3 here. Deadfire obviously dropping a tag match to Bobby Plaster and his stunt double coming out, which was booked as a handicap match. But obviously 2 Plasters showed up and bamboozled the SWA and all the audience, and very much so Deadfire. And then we saw Bobby Plaster or Bobby Plaster's stunt double take on Diego Mercer for the Ascent Championship belt, where Bobby Plaster dropped that match to Diego Mercer. And I guess this will be the culmination of that kind of saga where we get a rematch of Deadfire versus the Bobby Plasters. And I don't think Deadfire's taking any chances. I think they're coming down with all three members. So we'll see what happens here, and we'll see if Bobby Plaster comes down with a third Bobby Plaster or someone else, maybe like El Puma, who's worked with Bobby Plaster in the past, or someone else. So we'll see what happens here. This one has the most intriguing, perhaps, implications going on. Next match, another Elimination Chamber. This one, the Path to Glory, that we saw the showcase of in episode 38. Zane Ryder, Paragon, Alonzo Howard, The Machine, El Puma, and Yasuke Bozeman in the Elimination Chamber with Path to Glory honors on the line, a shot at the belt. This is a big one. This is the one that can make or break a career for a season or two. Bozeman is back in the Path to Glory again this year. I don't think he made it last year, but don't quote me on that. He definitely made it in his first season. But Bozeman has probably the most experience in this match, just because he's been in the Elimination Chamber match before, as well as having a pretty good showing in all of his Elimination Chamber showcases. So we'll be looking to see what Bozeman has for us, but the new wrestlers of Zane Ryder and Alonzo Howard are our two rookies who won like their kind of showcase side tournament. It wasn't really a tournament, but it was definitely a winner takes all kind of situation. And Ryder and Howard worked their way into this match pretty well. Howard taking down Czar emphatically, and Ryder just kind of cruising to both of his wins. And then a couple of big bodies in Paragon and Machine. We haven't really seen wrestlers this large, besides for maybe Warren Wyndham, in the Elimination Chamber matches. So we'll see what the two big boys have. And then obviously El Puma is also here. El Puma, one of the more seasoned wrestlers in the SWA, looking to make his shot at the belt with the Path to Glory win. So we'll see what happens, because he's been kind of quiet. He was quiet on episode 38. He's been quiet before then. He won his Path to Glory qualifier match pretty well, pretty easily. Didn't really have to put in a lot of sweat. So he's probably very fresh, where some of these other wrestlers have seen a lot more action, a lot more damage in recent days. So we'll see what happens for the Path to Glory Elimination Chamber match. But that brings us to our final match of Countdown. Warren Wyndham versus Painwrecker in a 2 out of 3 falls match for the World Championship belts. Now, I guess the storylines on this one are this is either the end of Warpath, like they're gonna have to maybe break bread after this because of the transgressions that Warren Wyndham skipping their tag match on episode 38 has on Warpath. Obviously, they're not working too well together. They might take a break. It might just be over. So this might be the meltdown of Warpath here. But for this match, Warren Wyndham versus Painwrecker, we've seen this matchup once before, and I believe it went to Painwrecker's favor. So a 2 out of 3 falls match is interesting. So we'll see how that plays out. But this is going to be a real showcase of some of the top talent in the SWA. Will Painwrecker defend, or will Warren Wyndham become the world's first, SWA's first, 2-time SWA world champion? We will see tomorrow night, or rather tonight at Countdown, what happens, because this is a big one. This is for all the marbles. Not all the time does the world championship belt get put up on the line, especially between two of the top competitors in the game right now. And that wraps up our Countdown, kind of looking forward to Countdown section. And unfortunately, I really don't have much more on my docket. My only things I have is my storylines bullet point, but I really kind of talked about two of them already, so I'll just bring up the other one I had here. The two Elimination Chamber matches look to cement Season 3's countdown card as one of the heaviest cards to date, with two 6-man Elimination Chambers, a 6-man Iron Man match earlier in the night, and then DDT versus the Disciples of Grey. That's another 4-man match. This may be the most wrestlers we see in one night until the Royal Rumble coming later this season. So a lot of opportunity to see what a fair amount of the SWA roster has cooking. So I know a lot of other competitors will be taking notes, and I know a lot of competitors will be generating storylines and what their next plans are off of the events of Countdown. So it'll be really interesting to see kind of who makes it and who doesn't after tonight, especially with how many people we have being showcased tonight. And then I guess my last little thing that I was going to chat about is rumor mill around the SWA is that they've signed yet another new acquisition, a new wrestler, Big Bird Hawkins. Looks to spread his wings in the SWA in the near future. Not much is known about him, unfortunately. His style is rumored to be pretty unique, though. A lot of heavy blues, greens, and purples. So it'll be interesting to see what he brings to the SWA in a style perspective. But I know there is some footage. A lot of the SWA loyals always out on the prowl for amateur wrestling footage. Anything that they can get to glean some insider information on a wrestler in coming to the SWA. And there is some amateur wrestling footage of Big Bird Hawkins out there. So if you can find that, I'd say give it a watch. It's a good watch. It's a fun little breakdown and look inside of how Big Bird Hawkins looks to wrestle in the SWA. But you never know. He might change up his game before he gets to the SWA. He might improve. He might have a whole different gimmick. But Big Bird Hawkins signed newly by the SWA. He looks to make his debut in a future episode. Unfortunately, not at Countdown, but I'm sure we will see him in the very near future in the SWA. And that's gonna wrap it up. A little short episode tonight. I know we've been kind of getting on with 1 hour plus episodes, but with Countdown coming up here in a few hours, I want to try and make sure this gets out before Countdown hits. And hopefully it does. Hopefully you're not listening to this after Countdown and you're like, you schmuck, you absolute fool. you botched all your predictions, you did all that stuff. So I'm hoping I get it up in time, but if I don't, obviously you'll be listening to this and you'll be like, haha, that's funny, he didn't get it up in time. That's all I have for tonight on Crazy About the SWA podcast. I'm your host, Crazy Ralph, and I am out of here. Look forward to new episodes next week. Crazy About the SWA episode 7, featuring a special guest, a very special guest. So look forward to that one. Anyway, yeah, Ralph out.